He joins us right now. Good morning, Sean. How are you?
Good morning. I'm doing well. It was also the call of Ray Ferraro, who had a ringside seat for that activity and actually foreshadowed the bout that was to follow just seconds later because he heard Brady Tkachuk tell Sam Bennett, they were going next. So it was certainly a wild start to the game, and I don't know if we'll have similar stuff in that regard in terms of the fights tomorrow night, but I do think we're going to have just a really awesome experience for the world of hockey.
Can you just take us inside that arena on Saturday night, what the energy was like, what the vibe was like leading up to it, after those first 2, 3, 9 seconds, and then throughout that whole game? What was that experience like?
Yeah, it was awesome. The whole thing's been awesome. Starting with the first game of the tournament, on Wednesday night a week ago when, first of all, Sidney Crosby got introduced during the lineups and as the captain of Team Canada, and see the response that he got for all that he's meant to the sport, and particularly his play for the national teams over the years in Canada. And then they bring out Mario Lemieux. The poor Swedes had no chance at the beginning of that game. That ovation was unlike just about anything I've ever seen in my life. John Cooper, the Canadian coach, said it was beyond what he's ever seen. And then, to your question about Saturday night, there was incredible anticipation. And then to have that happen, other than the Tkachuk brothers and JT Miller, who confessed after the game to having had a text exchange where they talked about, let's drop the gloves and turn it into what it was at the beginning. I don't think anybody knew it was coming. I don't think their teammates knew. The coaches knew. I don't think anybody on Team Canada knew it was coming. So, it just kind of took your breath away for a second. I remember standing in the booth thinking, okay, is that what this whole night's going to be like? Or, all right, they got that out of their system and now they're going to go play. And obviously it was the latter. And I'm glad that it did. I mean, the level of play in hockey today, especially from these players, 92 of the best players in the world, is so high that I think it would have been a really big missed opportunity in front of huge audiences on television in the United States and Canada to really showcase what is the best parts of the sport, what are the best parts. And that's, the speed, the skill, and the physicality of it. So I'm glad it quickly turned into a hockey game.
Sean, Salk and I were debating a little bit yesterday, and certainly some of the narrative after the fact. How much did the booing of the anthem play a role in those brawls, if any at all?
Well, I think it played some. And the reason I say that is after the USA game Thursday night against Finland, when the anthem was booed, and the USA, pulled away and won 6-1. The Tkachuk brothers were the stars. They both scored 2 goals. So they did their press conference together after the game. And one of the members of the media, asked about the booing of the anthem, and Brady tapped his older brother Matthew on the leg as if to say, you handle this one, which was smart on Brady's part, right? Because he's the captain of a Canadian-based team, the Ottawa Senators. So I don't think he wants to, have to go back to Ottawa having just waded into some international controversy about anthem. So, if you remember, Matthew's response was, I don't like it, and that's all I got on that, I believe was the direct quote or very close to it. So, it definitely rankled a lot of the people, I think everybody in the USA travel party. I was up there when they got there Wednesday and got stuck there for an extra day. So I was up there for 5 days and, talking to just Canadian citizens, walking around restaurants, the hotel. They're not booing the anthem. They're not necessarily booing the players of Team USA, although they are booing Austin Matthews because he plays for Toronto, and that's their much despised rival, and he's also the captain of the American team. But they're booing the politics of it, particularly President Trump. Right? They're booing the tariffs or the threatened tariffs. That seems to change on a relatively daily basis, and they're booing his comments about Canada is going to become the 51st state. That's what they're booing. So, I wish they wouldn't do it. I think the players and coaches on Team Canada have been very public in saying they wish that their fans didn't boo the U.S. national anthem. But, it happened. And, I think it's a backdrop to it. But I think these games would have been every bit of as intense. Yeah. John Cooper, the Canadian coach, said he hasn't heard anybody in his locker room talking about the politics of the USA-Canada relationship.
Yeah. And I heard you say yesterday or the day before the exact thing that I was saying yesterday, which is I really hope that it doesn't continue tomorrow night. I hope the fans at the Garden don't end up booing the Canadian national anthem out of spite or some sort of revenge. It just feels like let that die and try to just have an awesome championship hockey game.
Well, yeah, I agree, Mike. And my point is Canada's a great country. I'm sure we all have a lot of friends who are Canadian. Yeah, their reputation, and to me, it holds true throughout my lifetime. They tend to be nicer people. Probably. I remember being asked many times, well, of all the athletes, all the sports, who are the nicest players? And I have to deal with it. I say, well, the hockey players. And part of that's probably because half of them are Canadian. Or back in the old days, more than half of them were Canadian. Now I believe it's 41% are Canadian. But, we've been great neighbors for all of our lifetimes and well before that and hopefully well after we're gone. So, to get caught up in this stuff about tariffs and the 51st state, that none of us, does that really impact any of our lives? Is anybody who's going to be sitting in that seat tomorrow night thinking, I'm really pissed off about these tariffs? Just let it go. Be respectful of what's our great neighbor. They've been our great neighbor forever. They're great people. Just because they had some people want to boo Donald Trump through our anthem, I don't think we need to respond in kind. Show some class and
what's
show
great,
some respect
Sean,
for the relationship.
Yeah, and what's great is you're talking about a very kind, very civil, very warm fan base in Boston. That's kind of isn't that what the Boston fans?
Well, that's what we're known for here, Brock, as you know, and Mike knows. We've experienced it firsthand.
Yes. So I'm sure they'll be very gracious.
If I have to predict, do I think they'll be booing tomorrow night? Yes, I do.
Yeah.
But my hope would be that did not happen. To me, it's not a huge deal either way, right? And I just hope this is a momentary blip in the history of the relationship between the two countries, and we go back to being what we've almost always been throughout our lifetime, because to me, that's the way it should be.
Did you expect that this was going to be, not the anthem thing, I'm done with that, but just that this whole four nations face-off, did you think it was going to catch the national attention the way it has?
No. I thought it would be awesome. I laughed like many of the players and coaches who've been asked about it before it even started. Are they really going to try? They're going to risk injury with the rest of their NHL seasons upcoming. And it's really an all-star game. And, every player and coach shot that down as emphatically as they could in the pre-press. And then they went out and backed up those words from the very beginning. I've done several of these NHL all-star games the last few years. Guys aren't checking. Guys aren't blocking shots. Canada blocked 25 shots in the opening game against Sweden. Brady Tkachuk for the USA had 8 hits, which is as many as he's had, and he's one of the most physical players in the league. But that's the most he's had in any NHL game during the regular season. It tied the most that he's had. The USA had, I think it was 32 hits against Finland in the opening game. And you've watched it. It's fast. John Cooper said after the Canada-Sweden game, it's the fastest hockey game he's ever been a part of. His teams have played in Stanley Cup finals, won 2 of them. These guys have all been around, and they're all talking. A couple of the American players said, Dylan Larkin and Brady Tkachuk said before the game Saturday night against Canada, this is the biggest game I will have ever played in so far in my life. So I'm surprised that it got to that extent. I'm certainly really happy that it's captivated the TV audience, especially in the United States. Everybody in Canada is going to watch it. They're a hockey mad country. But, the rating here was unbelievable, and I think it's going to be even more unbelievable tomorrow night with all the attention that this has received. And I hope it's lasting. Now that people are coming to watch hockey, I hope they stay, because I've been saying for the 4 years that we've been back in this. The game's, if you watch hockey 15 years ago, 20 years ago, the game is so much better now. It's faster, as we've certainly seen. It's incredibly fast. The players are bigger. Even by the admission of the great players from the days like when Mario Lemieux was a star, they're more skilled. They changed the rules to open it up more. There's more scoring. It's a great game, and I hope that people won't just tune in for this and then tune out, and I hope they stay.
I feel like the biggest takeaway, Sean McDonough here with us, and very kind of you to take time. The day before the big championship there between Canada and USA, I was saying yesterday that, gosh, it feels like the care factor you'll hear coaches and scouts talk about that, right, Sean? Man, this guy's got a high care factor. This guy's got a high care factor, a high want to. It feels like the care factor in the NHL is through the roof.
You're right. I mean, the buy-in factor, it's almost, I would say, rare. I don't know when I've ever heard somebody say, you know what, this guy really doesn't try very hard on an NHL team, because you can't, right? If you're going out there half speed, you're going to stand out like a sore thumb, and you're going to get devoured. So, and, you know, there's a real culture in hockey. Like, you know, in some of the other sports, if you're kind of a jerk, you know, he's sitting in his locker, there's just kind of a jerk. If you're a jerk on a hockey team, the other guys in the room straighten it out. You don't need the coach or the GM or somebody to get the guy in line. You don't get away with being a jerk. So there's a great culture in hockey, and there's certainly, to your point, is a tremendous buy-in factor, and that is particularly on display here. You know, I just think players on all four of these teams have so much pride to play for their nation. And I think, you know, in the case of the United States, a big part of what's driving this, Canada's always been the gold standard. I mean, the United States first played Canada in the Olympics in 1920. I believe it was the 7th Olympiad. And for that entire history, Canada has been the gold standard. They won the most medals, the most gold medals, the World Championships, the World Juniors, the Canada Cups, the World Cups of hockey. And I think the United States people really believe we're as good, if not better than them. And this is a chance for us to show it, and a chance that we haven't had in a long time. So I think that's a big part of what's driving the intensity.
I'll confess, Sean, I started the show this morning telling the people of Seattle, and Dave Niehaus is such a legend here. I mean, the love that this city had and still has even to this day for Dave Niehaus.
So. Boy, do I miss that man.
Yes, we all do. And I had the privilege of just getting to know him for a few years. I didn't get to grow up listening. I did say, you're my Dave Niehaus, though. I grew up listening to you and watching you call all the games. And every time you come on the show, it is still like a huge thrill for me to get a chance to talk to you.
Oh, you're very kind to say that. And especially be compared to somebody like Dave. I got stuck with him in an elevator at Fenway Park one time on like a 112-degree Sunday. And I know you've been in an elevator before, and he was completely wigging out. I mean, I don't know if it was the claustrophobia or the fact that it was probably 125 degrees in the elevator. And, you know, I remember thinking, oh, God, you know, I'm going to be here as Dave is having this legendary person and broadcaster is having, you know, a medical emergency. What do I do? But you know what I loved about him, as much as he was a great broadcaster, he felt so grateful to be able to do this for a living, right? You know, we have so many guys in our business and women who complain, oh, God, I got to do that, or they're going to play a doubleheader. Oh, God, like, well, there's 12 billion people on the planet who would love to broadcast one Major League Baseball game. You know, Dave felt fortunate to be there every night because we all are, and he was a great example to all of us.
That's beautiful. And Thursday, tomorrow night, feels like it's going to be one of those settings, Sean. And you've called big games. You've been in a lot of big moments. You've seen it all.
I mean, you have a vast audience. The people listening, not just you.
Yep.
You go tell your friends, hey, you gotta watch. You gotta give this game. You haven't given hockey a chance. And go to a Kraken game. I know it's a really tough ticket. But, you know, hockey is awesome, and it's a rapidly growing sport, so don't be left behind.
Love it.
This is great. Thank you so much, Sean. We appreciate your time.
If I get a name that rhymes with Brock or Salk, and can I occasionally be like the third host?
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. I mean, how do we sign up for that?
I probably opened a bad door. There's probably some horrible names that rhyme, but
we can probably come up with something.
Can you, in the re-air on your website, could you edit that?
Yeah, we'll just take that right. We'll just dump that. Yeah, we'll just dump that. Sean, thank you so much. Have fun tomorrow night. Should be a great time, and we'll certainly be watching.
Always a pleasure. Thank you.
All right, there you go. The legendary Sean McDonough.
You know what, Salk? Everyone's